Yeah, reminder. Do they have all the due dates and everything? At least you don't double up. I assume nobody would want to because I would. So I just did. Yeah.
Oh, snacks. Snack. Mr. Bond, how are you? 30 years. Where'd you get my shirt, bro? Huh? Where'd you get my shirt? Fucking clothes line. Nothing. Jumpsuit for London, I guess. Oh, that woman there?
Never left it, lady clothesline, I left it in somebody's bed.
Found it. Oh, every day. I like your email, but.
Yep.
Oh, I don't like this chair.
Way back.
Back then, they were, like, they were giving land away. And then after a few years, they sort of took them back again. After, and they scrambled people around again.
You're not recording yet, are you?
Not yet, no.
Okay.
No, you're good.
I'm eating.
Yeah. You're safe.
Please get those noodles.
just leaving a message for Sadie yesterday.
When we make
I think she said she was in bed tomorrow and get back today, I think. Cause I think we set it for Monday and she couldn't make it. But I don't remember now. Maybe she's gonna be gone all week.
I was gonna try this morning, call her again, but I left her a message.
We go back tomorrow to start her chemo again, for another 14 days. We having a tough time.
After the meeting with Katie here. I said, what are we getting you ready?
That's fast days. Well, I was checking on her about it and see how she's doing. Didn't leave her too long.
Just, 1,000, or else the letters.
Probably the letters of long list, so yeah,
I have copies because I was gonna give it before, but we didn't get a chance to.
Na spelling des Gitxsan.
I don't know, to be honest.
It doesn't look right.
Sadie told us. Gigeenix, Gigeenix.
Good, yeah.
I think we added different and then Sadie corrected us. Well, doesn't look right, eh?
تقاقتم ستامم langsung dem neem dem sumdi gas in het koos kan ik zien hoe je kutje de pie is een dem asi macht is je te zien stopje is je te vast kan glas voelen met een hele ik heb toast je kutje en Why cut off no? I'm going to bath some khaki. I'm going to snow. Just to there, because I see it. Look at the no, but I do it. But this was good. There's no snake. Them best. When we look to make the them safe near the gate. Hooks van laag je koelen man en helemaal goed man. Amen.
Thank you very much. We have an agenda in front of us. Number 2, administration, the July 17th minutes, June 5th minutes, crisis management update provided by Art, Brian, and Robert. Refer to meeting notes on July 9th, 2019 CMT meeting, next government session, and other. I've added on other, maybe we could talk about it right off the get-go after the minutes, and that's to provide a response to Gitxsan that came to the table at the special meeting, and you provided us with questions, and I'm sure all of you have had an opportunity to have a look at those questions, and I'm open to your suggestions to how to proceed from here, and I would look at that at this point, and at least have I'm wanting to be respectful of Gitxsan, and she did come at our call, and she did provide us questions here, and if we could respond to those questions, I think from my point of view, I would be happy with that, whether that's of any importance or not. Any additional additions to the agenda? Oh yeah.
Yeah, I would like to add just a question about the remaining groups that are going to be brought in. I just want to ask about it. So I'm just hoping we can clarify.
All right, we'll add that to the agenda.
Okay.
Under other. Oh yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to ask we put on a proposed project on territory. Thank you.
Okay. There are additions to the agenda. We will proceed with the agenda. What was talking about was have a discussion about the remaining chiefs on the list that when
Other house groups to be brought in.
So that'll be on the number 5. So I have a mover to accept the agenda with Gitxsan's response, remaining groups, and proposed project on the HIP. Moved by Oye, seconded by Sibachine. All those in favor? Thank you. Unanimous. So July 17th or June 5th minutes. Changes? We thought we should put this set of minutes in there, although have it though.
The only thing about that, Mayor and Brian, is I'm concerned on this governance table of the right protocol in regards to people coming in that aren't on the table here, and we have to have some protocol in place where they request to be put on the agenda maybe, not at the particular meeting, but send a letter of request if they want to be on the agenda, so that we're not caught off guard as to what is happening, because we would look sort of foolish if we don't have some protocol in place, because we're going to be dealing with the government on a one-on-one basis, and we have to sort of know how we're going to conduct ourselves when it comes to a meeting of the chiefs or the governance table. Because I think this governance table is being really watched, and we want to make sure we do the things in the right way. That's what I want to add in regards to this meeting, this meeting that we adjourned in such an abrupt way.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just something a little bit, maybe one more point with regards to some obvious concerns here. Some of these documents that I have, well, one of these documents I have in front of me, I don't mind the chief's signature and wing chief's signature, but having a WILT member, and I believe that is part of the concern that is being brought to this table. Are we going to allow non-chiefs to start controlling our meetings? And that is my question. Thank you.
Excellent point. Anything else on those minutes? Any corrections? If none, can we get a
Brian?
move? Yes?
Well, I know the documents that we received weren't signed by the chief, right?
Correct.
And the chief wasn't present,
Correct.
so that's one concern. But one thing I wanted to mention, just it has to do with this other house group asking me about when other groups are being brought on. But I know when we first started, I was in the first group that came in, and Gord did an exercise there, like an icebreaker type of exercise, and for me what it did was really help me to get to know in a different way the people that I sit with at the table. And it built, for me, it built trust and comfort, I guess, because I came to the table out of curiosity. I wasn't sure what it was about. And maybe that's what we need to do with some of the newer groups that are coming on as well. Some sort of exercise to build that trust, like we had. Thanks.
Thank you, Catherine. Any other comments? Can we have a mover to accept the minutes that we on June 5th by John? Same Laha. Is there a second? Seconded by OEA. Question on the motion? All those in favor? Against? Thank you.
Again, against.
So the crisis management update, who would like to start? Robert, myself, or Art? We have the minutes for the for that meeting that we had, and if there's any other comments that the chiefs can provide, Art and Robert. Robert?
Yeah, I think we had a very good meeting with the government last meeting. More informative. We went further than what we done with other meetings. But I noticed that they're going to open commercial fishing. I don't know when. So we'll have to find out about that.
Yes.
And shaming again. And they said they're not gonna keep soccer, I don't know how they're gonna do that. Because shaming damages fish just by bringing them up by those big nets they use after they sweep the floor. And what we brought up to the government, that license and permits do not authorize trespass and that there's no gap between it and that. The whole schema is under our jurisdiction. So there's no recreational fishing for this year. It's supposed to be with the tributaries too, but I noticed there's some fishing in some of the tributaries like the park. And what we were told, there's lots of recreational fishing past Gitxsan. I don't know what's happening there. I thought they were with us, but I guess that's the DFO that's doing that. We'll have to find out about that, either from Gitxsan or DFO. Because we're trying to preserve our chinook and other fish for the 2019. And they keep doing that, they're overriding what we're saying to them. Even though they said they agree to work with us. The same old thing again, you don't listen to the natives, and when something goes wrong, we get the blame. They seem to be there. I'm talking with BC, they always bring up lands and title. And they're the ones that usually take off the table when things don't come their way. We'll have to be more diligent in talking to them about that. That's the only way we can get our government through our jurisdiction regarding sports fishing and other fishing. And I also asked about what kind of chemicals they use in SCN when they spray their right-of-way. And it has it on here, but they didn't answer about the forestry. Are they still doing it? If they are, what kind of chemicals? Because animals eat that. And we eat the animals, so it's
Cycle.
deadly cycle. But
Now, could I just add to Bob's thing there? I came back from Rupert on Sunday, and there was sports fishermen from Tyee up to Terrace. And I mean a lot of sports fishermen. Boats, SUVs, or what do you call those, ATMs, ATVs across the river, and people camping on the islands there, right to Terrace.
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself, isn't that part of Gitxsan, Calum and them, their jurisdiction? And do we have the right to say something, or have they committed themselves to agreeing with what we've said about the Skeena closure? Have we ever, any of them answered us as to whether they're in favor of it, or are they showing us they're gonna do their own thing and maybe they're doing their own licensing? We don't know.
well, when we had a meeting in Terrace in Gitxsan, Calum, they said they wanted to work with us, and that's all we heard. That's why I was wondering if it's the DFO that's doing that again, overriding or what we're trying to do to conserve fish. So we'll have to, like I said a little while ago, we'll have to ask Gitxsan, Calum, DFO, who's doing it. And another thing that I brought up was who monitors their sports fishing. We've asked that ample of times and nobody answers us. So they wrote it down in the book. I don't know if we'll get an answer.
Thanks, Robert.
Done
Art,
now.
Art, and then Roy.
Well, I think we started our meeting with Robin, and he covered no access to the ANAT in 2019, and then Bob reinforced that about permits and licensing don't authorize trespass, and there were some reports of the test fishery. The lowest return of Chinook since 1973, and the DFO, they talked a little bit about some of their closures, and then after Norman and finished, Norman Moore, he covered all the whatever else needed covering, and my part was the tribunal where our authority would be in par with government authority, and it was something that we suggested at the outset of our meetings, but we hadn't heard from the province or the feds, and it's basically how do we include Canada and BC with our fish. Like I think we always talk that that we've been here forever and the fish belongs to us, and we approach it from that standpoint, and the basic problem has been a historical decline, and where nobody could argue with that, and I reminded them of Premier Horgan's presentation with Odin, that the Declaration of the United Nations was going to be implemented at some point, and that is a good indicator why that the tribunal we suggested should happen, and we can get working on it right away, and we talked about our historical indicators and practices and laws, and where this is where our jurisdictions will meet for the good of the salmon, and I pointed out that the province wasn't there, and what does that mean, and because the whole idea of us getting together was to begin to fix the situation of the declining salmon, and at the end of our meeting, DFO showed a willingness to get together with us to talk about the tribunal, and so we thought that was a breakthrough. It was a breakthrough that we were going to sit at the table with equal footing, and I think this was the breakthrough that we've been looking for, because I think a lot of people out there are waiting to see what's happening, and I think we probably need to hear a little more from all of you. What are your thoughts on that, and like especially with our authority versus their authority, like how do they come together, and so I think we have another meeting sometime soon, and I can't remember what date that was, but I'm not sure if we're going to have a prep meeting before that, because I think the beginning of that meeting will be with some sports fishermen reps, and I think my suggestion was to hear them out, and then they can leave, and then we keep talking with the province and the feds, because the sports fishermen, they don't really have any authority. But we thought that we'd listen to them anyway, and maybe we can have your thoughts about that, and more the unit will add out the sales from with the Amadi Sulayes will William Gehori will more the was this kind of the museum naktan sigudi claim the helpfully I know was what they let it gun to sakay negus those Kedam was it when we will get. I hope yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Art. Roy had a comment, and I'll add to.
Only comment I'm going to make is, about a month ago, I was watching the TV, and Port Simpson, the Simpsons, has claimed all the way to Terrace. Their boundary, like I said before, is from the bottom end of Kennedy Island all the way across Point Island into the, the airport. Then just before into Rupert there. There used to be about probably 100 to 150 people, Gitxsan people living by the superport. That's way a long time ago, 1930s, 1940s. And they also lived at Port Essington. Those were all the Gitxsan people that were here. But now, some of them stayed down there. Now they're Gitxsan. They're all intermarried. But they're still Gitxsan. They have to be told that, because I went to one meeting in Terrace and I told them that, and they agreed with me. They agreed that they are Gitxsans. Charlie Nelson's, Don Roberts and them, they know the history. But there's some that were married into the Nisqa, or sort of trying to claim that now. They were married into Gitxsan, and they lived there. So they're pushing, just like all the other nations, and have to put it on the table again for them to remind them. They kept saying, oh, it came this way, and they came up to Skeena River, they kept saying. I said, river runs one way, I said, it doesn't run up. So how could you guys be running this way? The river runs one way, I said, that's how life is. You don't run against the river. I remind them about that because I was always told by Stanley Williams, Percy Sterrett, Chris Sculson, all the old people that are no longer here. They used to point out along the way down to Rupert where they used to live and trap in the wintertime. You know, it is quite something. Yeah, let's go to some hay.
Thanks, Roy. Before I just wanted to add to the report. Unfortunately, the province was not at the meeting, and we were told that they felt it might have been a technical issues around fisheries, and they didn't feel it was important to be at the table. I'm not sure if they felt that, or I'm just information I received. So we bring this report back to the Gitxsan, this table, as your representatives, and it's been looked at as a soft approach. We're not being vigilant. We're not being bullies. We're not aggressive towards the government and or both governments, and looking at building a relationship and a partnership. We reinforce that our anat is our livelihood. We reinforce that licenses and permits do not authorize trespass. People think it's a law that we have our anat. We said, no, it's not a law, it's a standard. Laws can be broken. Laws can be challenged. Our anat is a standard. It's what we do. It's what we constantly do. All of this is simply, you get know the standard, and that's where we are. The I did get a phone call, or not a phone call, an email today to confirm the crisis management team meeting on July the 26th, not the 22nd. So the crisis management team meeting with the sports fishermen will be on the 26th in Terrace. We would probably have a pre-meeting, probably the 25th. I also participated in a fisheries update today. Amy Wakeland suggested that they would provide phone numbers to the group here that, or not, yeah, phone numbers, a conference call. So I got on the line, and a lot of the First Nations groups were represented as far as Lake Babine, the Gitxsan watershed authorities, Kitsalas, Kitsamkela, Metlakatla, and I can't remember the name of the other communities, but they were all represented at the table, and the report indicated very low run this year. I almost feel like it might be late. They reported, I think, 13,000 at Tyee yesterday. Sockeye would, and according to their variance, it could be as low as 330,000 or so to as high as 538,000 sockeye returning. So it's not looking good according to what they're reporting based on the records they use on Tyee. And another point that I really picked up was that a lot of the First Nations groups are not happy with the recreational fishermen. They're not happy with the sports fishing. Why do they get to keep fishing and our salmon are in a crisis? Walter Joseph pointed out we don't have enough food fish, and yet their rec fishermen are out on the river fishing. To date, they've only gotten 100 sockeye and 100 chinook that have gone through that they've counted. So it's pretty bad. So, and along with that group, there's other groups in the terrace area that have also indicated unhappiness or not in favor of the rec fishery. And that's all I can report at this point. Oh, yay.
Thanks, Brian. Going through your minutes, and it's very well appreciated from what our task group is doing. An acknowledgement of our territories. It's too bad the province wasn't there, but the federal government, including Amy, was at that meeting. And my question is, did she recognize our territory? And question two, are they clearly documented as we previously requested a few months ago, that maybe someone should start documenting who owns each an ad, and that we keep a file on it? Because no one has approached myself yet for our an ad and a Babine, and these were developed by the Samogas that have gone, you know, which they gave themselves a copy of, you know, and each, you know, all the ads around the Babine River there. And it's impacted also, you know. I hear there's a lot of recreational fishing speedboats going up there. And three, I see the federal government is proposing to start a task group. I don't know what the task group would be consisting of. It doesn't say on the minutes. nor this First Nations Fisheries Council. That's the Fraser, I believe, that's what she's implying on. Why don't we have our own First Nations Fisheries Council up here? You know, that should be implemented, not this Fraser, if we don't have one yet, maybe we do. And it's important that they're talking about reconcile Indigenous law with Canadian law, you know, and I think what Art reported earlier is very true, that you know, we have to lay down our own ayok, you know, and not to follow the Kamshua. He did mention a lot of things in his report, and one of them is how we can work together. You know. And last July 26th meeting, I see is very important if the Fraser are coming up and other nations. You know, I myself, as a, you know, who owns an ad, wouldn't mind if we could sit in and listen. You know, or because we have to know what's discussed. You know. Because it impacts all of us. I just want to know if it's going to be open. Kabit.
So I'll try to answer some of your questions. I try to record them all. I believe that Amy recognized the territory, or we call it our Lakip. We showed her, we pointed out to her the map that we have on the wall behind me. We're also working with the BC treaty negotiator Tom McCarthy, who is also assigned Roger Rietsema to have a discussion with Gordon and I on providing signets or a sample of signets for the Anat. That's kind of in the motion of moving. Don't know anything about the federal government task group. Is it
Group meeting that Amy suggested from the federal government on page 4, top, task.
He's talking about the FNFC.
Fraser
Page
group?
4, the task for Amy from the federal task.
Well, no, well, the Amy was suggesting that we bring someone from the Fraser Group task group fisheries and mentioned Ernie Cray, and having another meeting set aside to meet with them to look at how they did the work on the Fraser River. So that meeting hasn't been set yet. And I didn't catch your last question.
Our attendance on the July
Oh,
26th.
right. I think the we'll bring it up to the task force, the crisis management team. I'm not sure we should be all there and scare them off. It's too scary. I'm just kidding.
I'm lovable.
Any other comments on the bill?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. There's quite a few things going through my mind right now, just going through this stuff here. And just listen to the other comments and the responses from our crisis management team and the reports. I am very disappointed that the province decided not to attend the July 9th meeting. Going with the fact that, just looking through the rest of the documents that you handed out here, that he had met with the minister back in June 10th, a month prior. So they're very well aware of what is going to be happening. So has there been a letter sent to the minister regarding this lack of attendance by BC for the July 9th meeting. And I think they should be one sent from the management team expressing their disappointment and on the non-involvement of BC in this meeting, especially when they had a month to look into it, to decide about it. And I'm sure they're aware of that. And the one thing that I'm really thinking about is I'm hoping that we are able to break this barrier down that I see. Maybe I'm the only one. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm totally wrong 99.9% of the time. But right now, you were talking about UNDRIP. I heard somebody mention UNDRIP in their presentation. Right now, the province is drafting legislation for this fall for UNDRIP. And you know who they're speaking to. They're speaking to Leadership Council. They're not even speaking to us or any other hereditary system nation in this BC. And we should be doing something about that. I don't know. I think we should draft letter to the Premier and let them know that there are other people other than the Leadership Council and who they could consult when they're drafting the legislation to implement the UNDRIP. And it's gonna, once it's done, it's done. We're going to be left out again, just like everything else. And this jurisdiction. How did we find jurisdiction of our resource? Why is under the jurisdiction of Calum on the other side of the river? I mean, the other side of what do you call that river there, our border? And they don't become Gitxsan jurisdiction until they cross that. So we need to establish jurisdiction from when the salmon enter the Skeena. So that BC could listen to us instead of playing deaf. DFO Canada is paying a bit of attention. They're supplying a bit of money. Not that much, but they're supplying a bit of money for us to be getting together like this. And you know, I think I'll just stop from there. There's a lot of things I want to say, but if I continue, I'm going to get angry, and I don't want to get angry. That's not the way to. It's not how we should work as government. And that's the few of us that are here tonight. We should certainly think about putting our foot down and getting our crisis management team tell BC to get off their derriers and start attending these very important discussions that we're having. And it's our resources, and always will be our resource. That's never going to change. No matter, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if BC sits there and covers their mouths, ears, and eyes. Nothing's going to change. They open their eyes, and they're still going to be there. They tried it during the Delamo case. They thought we were gone, but when they open their eyes again, we're still there. So keep up the good work there, guys, and let's keep pounding them. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Robert?
I agree with Maurice about that.
sending them a letter from this group and the crisis management. Like they said, they have to make time. Or they said they had no time, so I said, make time. That's why they're elected, and that's why they're chosen to represent the government. Like I said before, in my talk, they don't listen to the native people. Nothing's changed. It's ingrained in them. 200 years? How long have I been here? They still try to assimilate us. It's working. And Bernie Morgan used to say at Gitxsan, jurisdiction used to go way by Inverness. That's right, practically the mouth of the Skeena. Not Speak Suit. That's where the mouth of Skeena actually begins going to Port Ed. He said that's where Gitxsan jurisdiction used to be years ago. But I never really asked question about that, why it suddenly changed. It's just like our Lahip towards the east. It's coming in closer and closer. At one time I heard that Gitxsan used to hunt and trap by Houston. Now it only comes as far, I don't know, Boulder Creek? I think they said that's where our border is. I'm not sure. I don't know who to believe anymore. And if we could, we're going to ask somebody in the government must have an old map. Jurisdiction. How far they could send. Even you have to ask Ottawa, because that's where all the information lays, not just Victoria or the Gigeenix. That's why our territory is getting smaller and smaller. Gitxsan's too kind, even though we know how to fight each other. We're getting too soft. I stop on there.
Gordon and then Bill.
Thank you, Chair. I get nervous when we start talking like this. This is a new time for the government this past 2 years. You are the government. Your jurisdiction is the enact. Where is the enact? They're along the river. We've got about 179 now that we're going to be looking at. All along the Skeena. That's your jurisdiction. We don't have any enact past Legate Creek. Maybe one or two. But that's what we're focusing on now. We're going to focus on the enact. BC is starting to look at that. Even though they never attended the meeting on July 9th, they met with Brian and I, and they want to set up signage with the Gitxsan Chief's logo on it and the province's logo to show the enact. So we're just starting to look at that. And Brian made that report a little earlier. So we're looking at the budget, we're looking at what the sign's going to look like. So there's some headway. In the old days, we always go to a meeting with the government and say they don't listen. It's changed now. Gitxsan have said we got jurisdiction on the fish. We have a fisheries tenure. We call it the enact. The government doesn't know what to do about that. They don't know who to send to the meeting. They send Flinro, because Flinro issues the permits. Their permits do not authorize them to trespass, so they're stuck. So Flinro's jurisdiction ends. They send Mir, Minister of Indigenous Relations and Recognition, I think it's called, or Reconciliation. We go to them when we're asking them to give us something. So they can't give us the enact, so they got no jurisdiction. So the government is stuck. They don't know who to send to the meeting. So for a change in the history of 153 years in Giget, the Gitxsan have something that we're making headway with. And they're really trying hard to meet with us. Because there's a big crisis regarding the salmon. The water is low, the water is warm, and we have told them that we have jurisdiction on the enact. So they're starting to work with us. It's not a matter of them ignoring us. If we back off now, we're not going to save the salmon. We're not going to save the enact. So you're on the right track. And I believe that DFO and the province believe you're on the right track as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. Bill?
Can we get I forgot one question that I was going to close off with. Who are the SFAC, the Sport Fishers Advisory Committee? Who do they report to? Do they report to a minister or a deputy minister or what?
They are a group on their own. And we're either, I think DFO suggested us meeting with them as the recreational fishers.
Usually when I see the word advisory, it usually relates to government. That's why I was wondering.
Yeah, it's hard to say. I think, I'm not sure, but I think they saw one or two of them work for DFO. But they're just representatives for the sports fishing group or the recreation group. But we'll find that out on the 26th. Any other questions?
Questions. I was gonna ask just before Gordy got up. I remember when I first started, I've shared this, I was absolutely scared, almost out of my wit, to be able to sit here. And then he went to the board there and he showed all the things that the government has said they were going to do. Now, is there any way that we can, at this table, make sure that they don't eliminate any of those things? Just because they're starting to see that we're starting to show them what we have? It's only the beginning. People on the table, this is only the beginning. We haven't even started on our hunting lines, hunting grounds, or hunting territories. And even our trees, we haven't even started there yet. So let's make sure that they don't change any of those things that they had started off to say that they're going to work with the Gitxsan or the First Nations or Indigenous people. I just want to make sure that we can do that somehow, one way or another. Thank you.
Thanks, George. Last speaker, Robert.
Why do we need signage on all the house group know where they're and all this. If the government wanna do that, they should just put it on TV, that's what they want. There'll be well, that's my own thinking, there'll be lots of trouble. You start putting signs up. As it is right now already, some people are cleaning out the holes. It's the same thing when they let the commercial fishing come up the schema. Some of them claim, what did they say, what did they call it? Common hole. What the hell is common hole? And somebody made a joke, oh, that's where you fish until you get caught, he said. It's not a joke. And for the government to put signage all over the place, it's kind of crazy. I know that we're starting with fish tenure, and eventually we'll go to the hunting grounds, trapping, fiber, mining. Half of my territory is gone, logged it off. I tried to stop them, but I was all alone. And I heard Gordy say that they're finally starting to listen. That's kind of hard to swallow after all of what we've been through. They say one thing and they do another. I'm not going out of what I'm bringing up, but how the mill used to work. We have safety meetings. After we done, and then the owner said, we'll do it our way. That's how the government operates. Look at them opening that past Gitxsan kiln. Nothing's stopped, nothing's changed. And they're talking about saying in the mouth of Skeena again. It's just like Susan Boss said, some of these things we have to get in writing, what they agreed on. That way it would be legal. That's what I keep telling them. I said, when you guys want to change something, you go through legislation just to change their rules. And regarding that Union of BC and all that other groups down there, none of them ever comes up our way. Yet they claim to represent all the natives. Most of they represent is the band councils. And that's what we reminded the feds at BC, that our system's hereditary. We have our own Ayoko. I'll stop there.
Thank you, Robert. So, Eugene.
I'd like to just add to what I heard from Robert in regards to the signs. Each and every one of us that are sitting here that represent a chief in our house, we are ones that utilize and use that fishing hole you're talking about. We know the names of each fishing hole, and we know where they sit. And I don't know if we should. We're not following the law if we're going to involve the government and let them intrude in our business, on our territories, and on our fishing holes. Look what's happening amongst us. This person is using a fishing hole where they don't belong. Another person is using a fishing hole. It's not theirs. Gitxsan, different clan. And this, a lot of us chiefs don't see this. And we don't correct it. Especially in the feast hall. Look what's happening amongst us as hereditary chiefs. We aren't following our regulations ourselves. You see other houses intruding on different nation or different houses' business. Different clans who are taken in to a house, talking for the Wilnarat that owns that name. These are the kind of things we have to correct in order to survive what we're doing today. If we're not doing that, my goodness, our system will die, and it's dying already because we're not following the laws of our people. We need to know the history of that house. Inem die valge aard is het nade met matel te win as a wilben. Nem dit matel la wit an aard. Nedi a yom tust. Nem dit matel la wit an jok. Goila. Wit is a yok tust. Nem die loos kagukuas. Leek swilp. Kan leek sterk as ayok. Wilt noemse. Ook eet. Go hecht body why am madam goes die. Nemer iets in je wil blilliet. As we to laugh dit nee go jas body. Le plakats ois nee. Ik net niet. Ze dit la school dus niet zeggen nooit. De moeilijk tuss. Dem zo zet voor. Dem ga je me net nee, me doet hem het voor. Niet tuss with was een gigat. Sem gigat. Hoog dit seme. Semet hoog dit. In net die logan jak dit kan semetus. Tusk ja wasgoed. Ha wasgoed. Tusk ja. Het gaat niet Willemse. Je amtlas het amat. Dat is het jeugd Willem. De dilstem. Tön. Ik ga de dils. Ik wil hem niet. Ik zit gelannem. Ik krijg ook nog neem. Maar ik eet al je get. Oh, la wist geem. Waar je wel. Sem amma skil ook. Im sem mattelse. Look het het leed na. Neem dem sem de mattel amma als laatste het juk. Als lachen schreef. Tusk hij is hem gegat. Tusk die hij is zat hun. La gaas Willemse. Ila amze amaskitkum. Met op amaskitels mals en Wilm. Met op zijn ambt. dem kan geast is geen Samuel neem die repsudier zilstit. Happy to say thank you.
Thank you, Sebastian. Muggles.
Kun helemaal die suggestie ik wil speak English. Je maar amsla gaan niet aks kalsebaar aan zok Gitxsan kias die daar map mostly niet die jaar province and government have made gaan niet aks kalsebaar lot I neem de prie we halm doch wala doch aan aardgat we weten die los bagatel noems kocht die neem die hand dus en we hebben niet gaan niet aks al lichtem die I neem die we stellen man die lep tasem lep noem ze willen ja maar ik leg niet gek het zijn nog goed.
George.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Art.
I've heard a couple of very important concerns, and I agree with the AO part of it, and I especially agree with what was just mentioned with regards to fighting over certain things that we shouldn't be. I was 12 years of age when I had to move off from Nash Y, and House it's called. Now there's such a thing within our own traditions where I was allowed on there to fish. The fishing holes, there's 5, sometimes 6. And each time we went out to pick the nets, the skiff was almost sunk. There's so much fish. But we did that daily. And this happened for as long as my grandfather, Charles, was alive. The day he passed away, we had no more access to that area because it was through him allowing my father to bring us there to help with the fishing. We did the fishing, I did the work with my mom. They gutted the fish, they hung it up, and they finished it. But like I say, we got our own ayokes, and we have to keep that among ourselves, and let's not argue about who should not be on areas, because there is allowance of some people through marriage. My children, I will allow them on dispatch for as long as I'm alive. When I pass away, they will no longer have any access to anything there. And this is what I'm talking about. Shimigit. Kabit.
Just one little suggestion. When it comes to, if I heard you right, they're asking for us to post the owners of an app. The way to answer that is anything within that is inside that map belongs to the Gitxsan as far as the Skeena River is concerned. We don't have to post anything. And that's it. It's under the authority of the Simgiget. When you start posting, they're going to say, oh, between this and this, there's room there. So the commercial fishermen or the
we'll go fishing there. There's no sign there, so we're gonna go fish there. What to say to them is, the river that goes through the Lahipa of the Gitxsan belongs to the Gitxsan. It's under our authority. Thank you, no more discussing. I like what's been said here today. I think what we started and what you guys started, and a long way back now, saying that you're gonna close the Skeena, is now supported by Ocean and Fisheries and Ocean, Gitxsan Watershed Authority. The projections supported what was said by you quite a long time ago. Now, to say to the government, this just proved that we projected a problem back, whatever date that was. We want the province at the table. But I'm seeing what the province is doing is they're setting up for the commercial or the recreational fisheries to come and meet with you guys. That's part of their economic base when they sell permits to these people to go fishing on the Skeena. You don't want that. Maybe you want to talk to them and deal with them, but the province should be involved. We are interested in the economy of BC ourselves. So let's work together. We have a very serious problem here. Very serious. Some people are projecting X number of decades before we run out of salmon. I am saying it's going to be a hell of a lot sooner than that. It's going to be. It's a very, very serious problem. Guimarum de hund tuchtagene. Guimarum de hundit. Listum yale rodum lum. Iniditum gena way to lanum. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice. So I'd like to move on the agenda. Not to set aside any of the very important comments made by the Assembly yet regarding the MERS proposal to the Gitxsan. And we'll most definitely review that and take it to further discussion. Will not move without the Gitxsan governance table. We will abide and follow the direction the table is put forward for the Gitxsan. So a number of documents were presented to us, and one of them included a number of documents from Nicodane group, and we had called Nicodane to the table, and she came to the meeting, and at that time presented a number of questions and concerns that she and her house group had. And so the discussion, and then I gave them a wrong date last week at Nicodane and Sanos, and Lorinda came to this office, and I let them know that I made a mistake on and gave us the incorrect date, and they acknowledged that, and I apologized to them for that, and they asked me quickly if there were going to be answers at the 17th meeting, today's meeting. I indicated to them that we have not had an opportunity to discuss these questions in the meeting, and we will respond accordingly, and Gitxsan at that meeting gave us a month to respond to the table. And so that's kind of where we're at this point. And one of the suggestions we could do is Gordon and I could provide those answers to Gitxsan. And one of the bigger questions that she had was bringing all of the chiefs together to have a meeting to talk more about governance. And one of the things that, one of the questions indicated, or what I saw was that did we get her permission to be acting on behalf of the Gitxsan chiefs? And we've tentatively said in one of our comments is that she was invited to this table, so she has a seat at this table. So, however, I put those comments out to you for further discussion.
It's too bad I haven't got my document with me, but I answered all of them on my sheet of paper. This is what I thought.
Okay.
I feel bad that I don't have it here because I could actually give you my comments as they were listing off what they wanted.
Yeah. I think there's 9 questions or 10 questions?
Yeah.
10?
But I did it in essence, the way I looked at it, the questions, I tried to answer it from my perspective as how would we relate to the whole Gitxsan nation, not to one house group or whatever. How would it benefit all of us is how I was answering those questions that they had, because it was just one chief asking all these questions, and there's 62 chiefs or whatever, and we all have questions, but they gave us 1 month to respond to them, and every chief decided to ask 7 or 8 questions and give us 1 month to answer them, we would be here a long time. Is the way I looked at it. Some of the questions were a little bit on the edge as to questioning the viability of the governance group. There was accusations thrown about a father clan, and I wish I had been here on time to answer that back, and I didn't have that opportunity. And I was taught that your father clan looks after the side of their family, but there's certain limitations that we could do as a father clan. And I think people have to respect each other's wilps, where Cleoma is father clan to Gitxsan's children, but that doesn't give them the right to come out and start slamming the father clan. That's an in-house issue. It's not a broad issue that has to be answered by chiefs. And out of those questions, I think 3/4 of the questions that were on there, had she been sitting at this table when she was invited, she wouldn't even had to ask any of those questions. And that's the message I think we should try to get out to the chiefs that are not attending. They may have their own reasons for not doing it, but don't make it look like we're the ones that are not responding to them, because we are trying to respond to them by inviting them here. Because one day will come where the government's going to say, well, okay, well, how many Gitxsan chiefs are we representing? And we want to be a nation, we should be 62 chiefs. Or 63, I've heard 62 or 63, so. But I look at that issue and I'm hoping I can find my piece of paper and have it handy the next time around if this issue comes up again. Thank you.
Robert and then Bill.
I agree with John, what he basically said a little while ago. I'm Father Clan to Sadie. And the way how they've been looking at me and makes me really uncomfortable. Just like if I have to agree with everything they do. You don't have to agree with everything they do. That's the reason why I didn't attend the blockade something. And they take it as an insult. And I kept asking, why are they so special? They think they're special now. They keep coming back to us, complaining. We've lost everything. And on number 7, GTS office and GDC office located at Negate in London. Yes, it is. But the Alamo court decision said you cannot implement established places like a town or a village. There's nothing you can do about it. It's the government. It's not the GTS. They're trying to blame GTS and all the other chiefs because they lost their territory. Gitxsan Hazelden was established long before, well, I guess most of us were even born. And that's what the Delaware Decision said, you cannot touch established places like town or villages when the court case is finished. Like if you do that, well, all the big cities will be under. I know some of them are still fighting it down south. But most of these are their band council. And like I said, do you think they're above everybody to come and look down on us? You cannot do that as Samoa. And the way how they talk is they're just blaming everybody that sits on the table. And as far as the treaty, I don't think, are we still in treaty talk? Or reconciliation? I thought we quit talking about treaty a few years back. That's why I keep telling the feds, the BC, you guys gotta show respect that we are the Gitxsan government too. We had our own New York jurisdiction way before contact with the Europeans. We're established Gitxsan nation. And some of the things that keep bringing up, it's all European law. That's what the Sherry's trying to use all the time. She has to understand our own New York and all that before they start talking. All these things that keep bringing up. And it's the same with he said a little while back, laws could be broken. But if you break a Gitxsan law, there's consequences. Period.
Maybe we don't do it anymore, but it's there for a reason. And I keep telling some of the chiefs about just add on to that, nothing doing, but they always kept bringing up drug dealers. The chief has the power to ban a person. I saw it twice in my lifetime. I'm 72 years old. The last one, this person was banned. So he doesn't have billets. He doesn't have a nation. Complete. Even after his death, they won't even allow the body to come back to the village where he came from. That's how strong our yoke is. That's just an add-on, because Nadine I was talking about the drug dealers. Consulting. Just like Johnny said. If they don't want to come, they don't have to. We're not forcing anybody to come. And we don't chase people out of the office. I heard that time and time again. Oh, they chase us out of the office. The last time they done that is when we were supposed to be in camera, but they wouldn't leave. All these things, it's just to make more trouble to get their way. Are we gonna keep putting up with that, or like they keep saying, the limit who can come in on the table? Lock the door if you have to, except your name's on the list, you can attend. There's nothing wrong with it. Just to keep the peace. You're having disturbance. Every meeting we have has been happening for I don't know how many years. But the questions, what makes them so special that they keep doing that? We're trying to respect them, they gotta show the same thing. There's totally lack of respect. How they talk to us as Shimogans. That should not be allowed. Doesn't matter who you are.
Thank you, Robert. Well, Bill, Art, and then Cliff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just before I respond to these documents that you're talking about, I would just like to remind everyone here that wat het sneak up daar, die allicht. Die kiddersum. Agartootsum. Start afresh, she said. Don't dwell on anything that happened in the past or whatever was said. So I'd like to just to support you on that, Rena, and let's go ahead with this meeting and just deal with business. And so to these two documents that you're talking about, in the beginning I was going to suggest that we send it to where it belongs. It's addressed to the GTS and Mr. Sebastian to respond to. It's not addressed to the governance. But in saying that, we accepted this at our last meeting, even though it is part 2 of part 1. Most of it is part 2 of part 1. So I'd like your suggestion, and I'd like to make a motion right now that Gordon respond to 1. And you, as the chair of this governance group, respond to the one we accepted. and to meet with Nicodem, just you two.
So there's a motion moved by Bill for the two documents, one to, for Gordon to respond to, and the other for myself to respond to, and also meet with Nicodem. Am I
Should
correct?
we hold back on that motion till after the next two speakers, then? Is that okay with you, Bill?
Go ahead.
That'd be in relation to Bill's motion.
Okay, we'll hold that motion. We have Art and Cliff.
You know, I think there's, I think this subject goes way back before when the hereditary chiefs were talking about remedies. Way back before I was a part of the litigation team way back when, and I wasn't the chief yet. I was probably in the mid-70s, I guess, and some of the chiefs said we're going to go after all of the land, even the lands that the white people have. Fee simple, they said we'll go after, and after they backed off after on fee simple. They said we have a big enough fight already. Like we're gonna pick a fight with all the farmers, then it's gonna take up all our time. And so they backed off with fee simple lands. And, but at the same time they didn't totally let it go. It was so I think that could be one point that could be made, and nobody's ever done that since. And I think a lot of us are impacted by white folks, but I think we respected the words of all the chiefs back then, all these people on the wall here. So I think undeveloped lands, I think, you have a better chance to fight for it. But I think when a certain place has changed hands 10 times already, then it's kind of hard to pick a fight after the 10th person. Like Jack Siglet used to own that place, and lots of people, I guess. But I think all of this could be answered in a respectful way. I think it's and I think make Nicodem feel welcome, and that's about it, I guess. Yeah.
Thank you, Art. Oh yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Bill, for holding back your motion. I think it's important that, we got to stress on that motion before it's presented that we at the table instructed the two people and support whatever they are going to say. But I was not going to speak on the issue with the Nicodem letter, but I'm glad we're following the traditional system where I heard both Boiler clan speak up. And I want to support, let them know I fully support what they gave out on this table. They are the Father clan, and it is their role, to do what they just did. And I agree with them that 90% of the stuff they have on this letter have been adhered to on this table. We did do all the stuff that they had, and that should be forwarded on a letter. And they asked for about budget. It should be made very clear to them in 2018, we are no longer under a loan system with a treaty. We don't have a loan anymore. No, we are on a contribution. And contribution means that we have to apply, by certain projects that we're going to do. It's not designated for all, you know, for individual simply gets, but as a whole, you know, we did put an application for a contribution with our society that represents, you know, that represents the treaty society. That's the only thing that the treaty society is, that it has to be a society recognized by the province for us to get funding. You know, but we made clear to Nick A that, you know, there's no more loan but a contribution agreement. That's all been forgiven. And yes, we do want them to attend our meetings. We want them clearly to come attend the meetings, and it's not closed. And I asked the mover for the new motion that, you know, we do support the two individuals. I verbally heard that that's going to be undertaking a task of responding to this letter. But we have to be very clear that we are in support of whatever they respond to, and they do not stand alone when they're questioned. Come in.
Thank you, Shepherd.
I want to figure out.
Just got one little comment just before you go
Okay.
to Bill's motion. Les touched on it, Bobby touched on it, regarding seeing the father clan. The father hereditary chief on that territory was their dad. We need to understand that prior to Joe Smith. Then the Smith girls were on there, and Joe built a cabin not too far from the turnoff. And when their dad died, they no longer went there, even though with the cabin there. They never went there. A nice, beautiful cabin out there that was finished. And then when they went to fix remote, then the kids are allowed to go there. But now they still say you're no longer welcome there. You can't go on there. That's ours, they said. I talked to Dorothy and I asked her about it, and they said our dad strictly said once he's passed on, we no longer go there. But we asked permission with Victor after that, he said, and Victor said, keep going till you're satisfied of using that cabin. And after that, they slowly didn't go there. And you know, we need to establish that their father had the name. And they were allowed to go there. When their father passed on, Joe Smith came in. Then Joe Smith passed away, Victor Moat came in. After Victor passed away, their sister name went on. That's why we're having so much trouble with this, is the name, St. August's name. And I don't think anybody ever brought that to the table regarding how important a chief name is. You can't change that. Go ahead.
Thank you, Luce. So you have your motion on the table. I'll try to say it again, that Gordon Sebastian respond to the letter, and Brian Williams to respond to the 9 points, and then have a meeting with Nick Adain to follow up.
Yeah, just to make sure that you let them know that you're the only reason why we respond to that is because we accepted their meeting, and as a government, we we're following the yoke. We cannot amend any Gitxsan yoke. That's every Gitxsan knows. And we, at this table, believe it's an administrative matter that needs to be done administratively.
That's not part of the motion, that's just what we'll do.
Yeah, that's what we do, yeah, that's not part of the motion. That's why, I'm just explaining the motion,
Yeah.
why I'm making the motion.
Is there a seconder to that motion? Seconded by OEA.
Question.
Question's been called. All those in favor?
You guys are on your own.
Any against? Abstentions? Passed.
Again.
Thank you for your support and thank you for reviewing these comments that Gitxsan has put on the table. And for the next part, I want to suggest that we go in camera and for the selection for the remaining groups. Well, let me start over again. The next agenda item is what about the remaining groups that is posted or posed by Kyle, and so we're going to. I'd like to suggest an in-camera meeting at this point so that we can discuss it further. The list of chiefs that are coming up on the next group. So we're going to go in camera for the next little bit here.
This is Gigeenix, right?
Correct. Do you have that list with you, Catherine?
No, I don't. The reason why I raised it was I was at a watershed meeting, and
tenure before we move on to other projects. And I'm looking at you, Oye, when I say that, because you had that on the agenda.
Yeah, and I don't think it just impacts our house group or others. But
Fishery tenure.
We have to identify where we're at with it. You know, some of it's here, I don't know what we're going through. But you're the chair.
That's my suggestion on the table.
As we were given the table $2.9 million, I guess you don't want that. Maybe yes.
Oy simgiyat sigir mana oy samnesimal nakwan sum nese klawil Gitxsan governance oy samnesimal ama alga kinamas blom nisum sayoga la Gitxsan eniltigam Ook de maal dinaai la magat ni yaptum skhalesa lo
When Daniela Gitxsan Gitxsan is no. Nee, is aan mijn sakaat. Je gaat completion aan mijn zin. Je hebt daar zijn papier en te lijken. Je gaat subsidie goed. Какое это ну выйдет, как ситуация сын, куда с ним захотят рады, он не ломает он Amen.
Catherine.
Thank you, Catherine.
See you later.
Later.
Yeah.
The meeting at your place next time?